Welcome to Middlesex Moments, the radio show from Middlesex Community College. I'm Steve Minkler, the Academic Dean and Campus Administrator here at Middlesex Community College, and we're coming to you from the radio studios of the Center for New Media at the college, here at our main campus at 100 Training Hill Road in Middletown. With me today is Mr. Trent Wright, who's the Coordinator of Institutional Advancement at Middlesex. How are you doing today, Trent?
Very good.
Now tell the listeners, what does the Coordinator of Institutional Advancement do? What kind of projects have you been involved with at the college?
Well, it covers a pretty broad spectrum. Fundraising, special events, community partnerships, special projects, assisting the MxCC Foundation, and assisting faculty and staff with grant applications to strengthen their program or to acquire updated equipment for their program or to conduct a community event which they want to go out into the public and offer a service and have a project and they need some funding, and we'll help them with that.
Okay, yeah, so if a faculty member came with an idea of how to be more involved in the community, you might get them together with possible funding that could help move that service forward, right?
Yeah.
So I know in the past you've been really helpful to our ophthalmic design and dispensing program. They've done community eye care days, and you've helped get some grant funding for that program.
Yeah, they have a community eye care day. They also help with the stand down at the Rocky Hill Veterans Home. They've done some work, I think, at one of the elementary schools in Middletown, and part of that is acquiring updated diagnostic equipment to perform the screenings, and we've helped with that, and as well as some of that equipment even being used internationally and in Mexico and South America with our ODD department is connected with World Vision, and so doing screenings in places where people wouldn't have access to normal eye care. And so that equipment has another life beyond the students in this community and then is used again internationally.
Right. So I think, in addition to having to know where some possible funding sources are, you need to work closely with the faculty members to understand what their goals are in trying to get some of these projects off the ground.
Right. Yeah, well, I work closely with a lot of our faculty. They're pretty busy, and we go back and forth with ideas and plans and timing and implementation and how many people are going to be served, and how does this also benefit the students and their program, and how are we going to sustain it after the grant funding ends, what that's going to look like. So there's a lot connected to it.
Right. Yeah, and you do play an important role in trying to put all that together when it comes to writing the applications and making sure that those folks that are very generous with their funding and who fund us are assured that we're using their money for the purposes we said that we're going to use it for.
After you get the funding, it's sort of a be careful what you wish for, because you have a responsibility to the funder to do what you said you were going to do in the time frame that you indicated. And then at the end, you're obligated to give them some form of a response, a final report on what we did, what were the problems, how it worked, how many people were impacted, and show them that their money was well spent, and perhaps in the hopes that they would continue to fund that program, knowing that you were a good steward of the funds and you had an impact, and they might want to continue to fund you.
Right. Okay, well, one of those important projects that we've undertaken the last couple of years has become to be known the Magic Food Bus. And when we come back after this short break, Trent Wright and I are going to talk a little more about what the Magic Food Bus is and how it's impacted our community. You're listening to Middlesex Moments. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Middlesex Moments, coming to you from Middlesex Community College. I'm Steve Minkler, your host, here with Trent Wright, who's Coordinator of Institutional Advancement. And this year, Trent, you took over management of what we call the Magic Food Bus, which is a food pantry on campus. And this really got started a couple of years ago when Professor Judith Felton had noticed what we call food insecurity among some of her students. Students coming to school hungry, may not have had a proper meal for the day. And how did those conversations begin when Judith first talk to you about trying to find possible funding or a place to do a food pantry.
Yes, Judith Feltman and I got together several times, and we kind of talked a little bit about food insecurity and students and what would be the best approach, and we talked about a food pantry. We don't have, or at that time didn't have, room for a box. I call it a box, a food pantry in a room somewhere, and we talked about acquiring a school bus and renovating the school bus and parking it somewhere on campus and having students access the bus. And we got a little bit further along and talked about, well, what are we going to call this thing? And I think I was the one that talked about the Magic Food Bus. And we then sketched out what we would need, and we need a bus, we need renovations, we need a location, and who's going to run the bus, and our students going to help. So it came out better than we thought. We acquired or purchased a bus, a former school bus that had already been renovated for what I call parties, for contract events and weddings and bachelorette parties and birthdays. So all the inside work had been stripped of the seats, and it had this big screen TV and seating and cup holders and air conditioning and everything. So all we had to do was slightly modify the seating that was in there for the people that were going to be transported and convert it with shelving to put food. So we then engaged a partnership, which has been a really good partnership with Vinyl Technical High School here in Middletown. And their students, with their supervisor, came in and did the rest of the renovations and the shelving and fix the doors and take a look at all the other things in the bus. And that was great help. And after they performed all those functions, we then talked about whether this bus should be moved around or whether it stays stationary and whether it should have license plates. And there's a whole bunch of issues. But in the end, we ended up towing the bus from Vinyl Technical High School, because it didn't have a license plate, up to the college to its current location in the lower parking lot, and opened up what we call the Magic Food Bus, I think September 21st of 2016. And it's been in operation since. Last year, we served about 363 unduplicated shoppers. We want to call them students, we call them shoppers. And if you want to look at how many, when you think about duplicates, is that they come many times during the year. Those individuals also are getting food not only for themselves, but for their partners, family, household, and so there's a multiplier effect. So if you talk about duplicate shoppers and how many household members they impacted last year, you get up to about 1,161 total people impacted last year.
That's significant.
Yeah, a little more than we thought. We're getting at that time about 39% were from Middletown. And this year so far, we opened up, I think, around September 15th, and through the mid-November, we have about 98 unique students, 167 a repeat, serving 278 household members unique. But if you take the duplicated students and they're duplicating serving the people in their households, it's up to 457. And it's split pretty much 50-50 between male and female. So we're happy that we actually have enough food. I thought that might be something we might have to work harder at. We have enough food. Now we're working on having more students be aware that it's here and to access the services. And right now we're preparing complete Thanksgiving meals for 25 students. And then in December, when the finals week comes in, around December 12th through the 18th, we'll prepare 100 complete lunches for the students during finals through the Magic Food Bus. And then right now, we've moved from the bus inside due to the weather and darkness, and will remain on campus inside at a location, much smaller location, until the weather breaks, maybe in March, hopefully. Then we'll go back out to the bus when the weather breaks.
Right. Yeah, because where the bus is parked now, it's not near campus facilities such as electricity or heat or air conditioning at the moment, right?
Right.
Right,
And
okay.
it could be provided, but I mean, you could run the bus and then you'd have to fill it up with diesel fuel, and then you got all the exhaust. And
Right.
so we're pretty much limited to natural light and whatever the weather happens to be in terms of cold and heat. And believe it or not, in the early part of September, it's really hot on the bus, and in November, it's really cold in the bus. Then it gets dark.
Mm-hmm.
So we deal with it.
Okay. So the Magic Food Bus at Middlesex Community College, is it just open to students and employees, or is it a public service?
It's not open to the general public. As it operates now, is for members of the college community. So that's defined as anyone with a college ID. So it could be a staff member, a part-timer, a faculty member, but it's the vast majority, 98% of the shoppers at the bus are students.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, that it benefits them, their partners, their families. It's so it's impacted a lot of people in our communities, which is sad that that's needed, but it's fantastic that the college can help fill that need. How many hours a week is the bus open?
Well, we're open 5 days a week. Off the top of my head, I'd say we're open about 20 hours a week, and we're open into one evening. We tried that this year. We didn't have that last year. About the middle of last year, we added Friday during the day. We continued that this year, and we'll probably look at our flow of shoppers and make a decision like what we'll do in the spring to slightly modify those hours. But right now, it will again be open in the spring, five days a week. We may slightly adjust the hours.
Okay. Now, where does the food come? Are there regular food drives on campus, and do you ever reach out to the community to bring in donations of non-perishable food?
Yeah, believe it or not, pleasantly surprised to find that the college community itself is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for bringing the food in. And we have a well-stocked food pantry, which is not what I thought. I thought I'd be spending a lot of time begging to get food, and they've been really good here. So we do have occasion. We'll have Mile, the group of seniors that meet here. They produce a tremendous amount of food, and they're part of our college community, but they're really an outside group that meets here and operates. Liberty Bank had a food drive last spring. We've got people from our foundation, friends of the college, alumni that come in with bags, but the bulk of what we do is we have collection bins all throughout the campus, and we multiple times a week clean them out, and our community has been very helpful, and it's at times we supplement from outside. I guess you could say one of the goals we have is not to have to purchase food when we're short, and so far we don't have that problem. We have enough food for what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's great that we do have the food bins all over campus, and we try to make sure that we bring the bins when we have meetings on campus. Just a reminder to people, sort of the price of admission for attending a meeting is a can of food or something like that. I think it's also appropriate to thank those in the community who've supported the Magic Food Bus through grants and donations, and maybe tell our listeners who's been very generous to us and as a way of thanking them.
The Community Foundation of Middlesex County has been a repeated funder of the food bus. Liberty Bank, the City of Middletown, through their community development block grants, has supported us. Alumni, off the top of my head, Vinyl Tech comes up here repeatedly during the year. They just bolted down all the shelving we have. They fixed the door. Glass falls out of the door. They put it in. They fix the lock. They adjust the emergency exit doors. If we had to pay for all of that, it'd be tough to pay for all the services. So pretty much everything we do is donated or in-kind donated services. So I was filling out a survey and they asked me my budget for the year, and I said technically it's zero. I mean, my time is devoted through the college and faculty's time, volunteers, human service, interns. I said when you really think about it, there's not too many operations that operate completely voluntarily with donations and volunteer help.
Yeah, and that's fantastic, and I thank you for being the leader of that effort. I mean, you do volunteer a lot of your time doing that. So we'll talk a little bit more about the Magic Food Bus after our next break. You're listening to Middlesex Moments here from Middlesex Community College. Welcome back to Middlesex Moments, coming to you from Middlesex Community College. I'm Steve Minkler, here together with Trent Wright, Coordinator of Institutional Advancement and manager of our Magic Food Bus food pantry that we have here on campus. And before the break, we were talking about the numbers of people that have been served by the Magic Food Bus, which is open to members of the Middlesex Community College community, anybody with a Middlesex ID, and how that it's impacted the lives of the customers and their families. And Trent, are there other demographics that you've been counting when it comes to our customers, like what towns they come from, and any other kind of general information about who we're serving through the Magic Food Bus?
Yes, it serves a broad area of communities, which is a little bit of a surprise to me. The college primarily serves the 18 communities that surround Middletown, including the shoreline, all of Middlesex County, and a portion of lower part of Hartford County and a couple in New Haven County. But this food bus from last year, the statistics show that we serve shoppers from 33 communities. So there are people coming here for education that come from areas outside of our service area and quite far away that are also served, which is interesting.
Yeah. And well, we do have students who come from all over the state, and maybe for some students it's a hardship to get here, and figuring the cost of commuting, that kind of puts a real pressure on their budgets, I would imagine. So
Yeah.
So if one of our listeners wanted to make a contribution to the food bus, whether that was actually bringing some food from a food drive or just dropping it off on their own, or even making a cash contribution, how might they be able to do either one of those things?
Yes, we take all kinds of food with the exception of food that needs to be refrigerated. We don't have a refrigeration system, so a lot of canned food, box goods. You just bring it up to the college. You can bring it to the to silver bus, or you can bring it to any of the bins that are on campus that are marked, or you can bring it up to the library. I'm in room 714. I have a bin outside my office, and we'll take care of you. Some people on campus don't want to go to a store and shop and get in line, and they routinely make donations. We take cash donations, or you can make a check out to the MxCC Foundation, and on the memo line you can put Magic Food Bus. We actually have a fund established at the foundation for check and cash donations that we use to supplement some of the needs of the bus. Like if we need Vinyl Tech will do the repairs, but they might need the screws to anchor the shelving. Well, we'll go buy $30 worth of screws to anchor the shelving, and if we need some lighting inside the bus, they'll install it. We might have to buy the light units, and if I have to do have Wi-Fi connection and I have to get a device to do that, we have all this little pot of money to assist us to do that.
Okay. Yep. So I noticed from the beginning of this project you were very motivated to make sure that it succeeded, and have taken an extraordinary personal interest in this, which is why I think it's wonderful that you agreed to lead the effort with the Magic Food Bus. And I don't know if you could speak a little bit to your motivation on ensuring that we have a very active food pantry on campus for our community.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a surprise to me. Also, I didn't think at this time of my career I'd be working on giving out food, much less at a community college. It just didn't. It doesn't connect that's that's part of what we should be doing, when in reality it really is. There are students that come to classes and choose between, or either don't have breakfast, go to a soup kitchen somewhere else, or don't eat at all, have other financial burdens and other things going on in their lives, especially at a community college, especially students that are a little bit older and have a lot of financial responsibilities in addition to coming to school here, and don't have enough money. And so I guess I would say that, I kind of like to finish something I start. I don't like to leave it, to put all this work in with Judith Felton and others, and then to see it end. So we'd like to hope that the bus, whether the bus as an entity survives as it is, 20 years from now, that there'll be some sort of program or something here to address the issue of food insecurity for community college students. What that may be years from now may be slightly different, but I guess we're hoping that, well, I guess you could say we hope we solve this problem. We don't ever have to have the need to have this, but
Right.
I don't see that happening with the cost to go to school and all the other costs that people face. I don't see it changing. I think there'd probably be a slight increase in the need for food insecurity over time. And just the question is how do we scale up in an era of dwindling resources? How do we keep this going at the lowest cost and serve the most people we can serve? And that's always an issue. Is how big do you want to be? Well, can you staff it accordingly? Can you fund it accordingly to do all the things you want to do? There's issues of space and refrigeration, and so we're not open to the general public. So those are issues, and whether we get into having other things for students on the bus, like toiletries and food that needs to be refrigerated, and small appliances and all that, other things, is all a function of space and volunteer staff time. So it should be, we're trying to put all that together this year on a larger strategic plan to look at and to survey the students and the shoppers, and then give an idea of where we think we should go, and then of course how we're going to implement that, and what kind of support there is for it, and what kind of resources to sustain it, and perhaps maybe make it a little better.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think the fact that it's in this brightly colored bus has captured the imagination of the greater community, and it is if you will, almost a signature feature of our college now. People seem genuinely excited that it exists. Again, we wish that we didn't have to provide this service, but food insecurity does exist. And you talked earlier about how right now we're very fortunate that our community has come forward and has fully stocked the bus and continues to do so. And we've gotten some grants, but you also have quite a few volunteers and interns. So how many people do you have working with you on the bus project right now?
Well, I have 4 human service interns.
And there are students who are in our human services program?
Right, and they do a lot of the work. I had until recently, but I had 3 student workers. I have a fellow, a former intern who now has a fellowship. So there's 4 and 3 is 7, and 1 more is 8. And then we have volunteers that help out on the bus, faculty, staff. So maybe you're up to 12. And that's about where we are on the staffing. But the key is to have enough food coming in on a regular basis, and for that we have the entire college community keeps putting food in the bins, and so you really got to include all of them, because if you don't have the food, then you've either got to go out and buy it, and you can't continually go out and buy food. Mm-hmm. So we've been fortunate that, you can call almost everybody at the college a volunteer if they're coming in and dumping in canned food in the bins, and they're keeping us stocked so we don't have to buy food. They're really a volunteer for the program. So they also make some cash donations because they don't want to go shopping, so we use that money to supplement other program needs. So it works so far,
Right. If one of our listeners wanted to volunteer to work a couple of hours on the Magic Food Bus, is that possible? And if so, how could they do that?
Yes, all they have to do, we have a web page on the college website, and it's mxcc.edu/MFB. That'll bring you to the Magic Food Bus page, and there's a click-on icon that says volunteer here, and you can pick the hours you want to volunteer for the month, and you can scroll to the following month, and I think they're in about 2-hour blocks, so you can do it once, you can do multiple times, we have volunteers that just go in there and put in a couple hours a week and just show up and do it because they enjoy doing it.
Sure. Any training involved, or you just kind of learn working alongside somebody who's been there a little bit longer than you have?
Every individual that volunteers on the bus has to go through a very short orientation program, about 15 minutes before they go on there for the first time, because there's issues of confidentiality, which is probably the most important thing, confidentiality, and how to record the statistics on the logs. We have a daily log to track all that goes in and all that goes out, recording their banner ID number. We track everything in a software program. We don't ask anybody's name. We don't ask their specific address, but there are certain questions we ask as to how old you are, what town you're coming from, how many people in your household will this serve, your banner ID number, ethnicity, and age. And then we track all that. So it only takes a few minutes to explain and show what needs to be done, and how to open the bus and how to close the bus if you're the last one off the bus, and what do you do with the key.
Mm-hmm.
And so those minor things, but you really have to know that before you walk onto the bus and somebody walks in and says, what do I do now?
Right. All right, well, Trent Wright, Coordinator of Institutional Advancement and Manager of the college's Magic Food Bus here at Middlesex Community College. I want to thank you for being here with me today on Middlesex Moments. Thanks for the hard work that you've put into the food bus.
Thank you.
Okay. And for our listeners, Middlesex Community College is now registering students for winter classes. We have about a dozen or so accelerated 3-week online classes that we're offering in the winter session beginning on December 26th, and we're registering for the spring semester. We have classes at our main campus here in Middletown, at our new Meriden Center located at Platt High School in the city of Meriden, and of course our online campus, which is open 24/7, and we have a wide variety of courses to choose from. If you're a continuing student, happen to be listening to this program, I really urge you to call your faculty academic advisor to talk about course selections for the upcoming semester. And as always, if you're interested in visiting us, you can visit us on campus here in Middletown or at Platt High School, and online at mxcc.edu. So for Middlesex Community College and Middlesex Moments, I'm Steve Minkler, and we'll see you next time.